You are brushing your teeth when your brain begins playing 6 seconds of a song you did not request. Not the whole song, just one line. It repeats while you make coffee, find your keys, and wonder whether it is possible to resign from your own mind. This is an earworm, or what researchers call involuntary musical imagery. A piece of music appears in your conscious mind without a deliberate decision to recall it, then keeps repeating. The short answer to why songs get stuck is that musical memory is easy to trigger. Repetition makes certain fragments highly available, and an underoccupied brain may begin rehearsing them automatically. The longer answer is stranger, because the song is not literally trapped anywhere. Your brain is repeatedly rebuilding it. An earworm is usually internal. You know there is no actual singer hiding in the room. It is closer to inner speech than an external sound. Except instead of silently thinking, "I should buy toothpaste," your mind is performing a chorus for the 47th time. Earworms are extremely common, and most are harmless. Many are pleasant or emotionally neutral. The phrase earworm makes the experience sound like a neurological parasite, but often it is more like a small mental pet that has learned one trick. The problem is that it performs the trick whenever it wants. The first major ingredient is exposure. A song is more likely to return if you heard it recently, heard it repeatedly, or encountered it in a memorable setting. Modern life supplies ideal conditions. A chorus might appear in a short video, then another video, then an advertisement, then from a car at a traffic light. You may never choose to play the song, yet your brain receives several rehearsals of the same fragment. Repetition matters because memory is partly shaped by availability. Every encounter strengthens the root back to that material. Experiments with unfamiliar songs suggest that repeated exposure can increase familiarity and the desire to sing along, although the effect also depends on the song. There is no universal number of plays that turns music into an earworm. 4 repetitions of one melody may do nothing. A single encounter with another can renovate your brain and refuse to return the deposit. Recent exposure is not the only trigger. Earworms can also arrive through association. A word in conversation may resemble a lyric. A location may remind you of a song you heard there. A mood can reactivate music connected with a similar mood. Someone says umbrella, Friday, or hello, and a musical filing cabinet opens by itself. That is not unique to music. Smells can summon childhood kitchens. A photograph can restore an entire afternoon. The mind is constantly linking information into networks, and one element can reactivate the others. Music happens to be unusually good material for this system because it contains rhythm, repetition, predictable sequences, and emotional associations. It gives memory several handles to grab, but exposure explains why a particular song is available. It does not fully explain why only a tiny section begins looping. Most earworms are fragments rather than complete private concerts. A chorus, a hook, or one lyrical phrase is compact enough to be mentally rehearsed. Researchers have linked this rehearsal to systems involved in auditory working memory and subvocalization, sometimes described as covert or inner singing. You may not move your lips, but parts of the process used to plan speech and song can still be active. This helps explain why earworms often feel oddly physical. You may sense the rhythm, anticipate the next note, or become tempted to hum. Studies have found that earworms can interfere with verbal memory tasks, as if the mental music is occupying some of the same limited workspace. Your brain is trying to remember a number, while an invisible employee keeps singing near the copier. Certain musical features may improve a song's chances. Research comparing commonly reported earworms with other popular songs found that earworm tunes tended to have faster tempos, familiar overall melodic shapes, and some distinctive interval patterns. Broadly, sticky music often balances predictability with a small surprise. If a melody is completely predictable, it may be forgettable. If it is chaotic, it is difficult to reproduce. The useful zone is familiar enough to learn quickly, but distinctive enough to recognize. Still, there is no scientific recipe that guarantees an earworm. Popularity matters because popular songs create more exposure. Personal taste matters. Familiarity matters. Lyrics can help, but instrumental music can also get stuck. Musical training and how important music is in someone's life may influence the experience. One person's unstoppable hook is another person's unremarkable background noise. Then there is timing. Earworms often appear during activities that require little focused attention. Walking, showering, cleaning, driving a familiar route, or lying in bed all leave spare mental capacity. In a laboratory study, people exposed to music reported more involuntary musical imagery when they later had less demanding tasks. As cognitive load increased, earworms became less common. This does not mean the brain is empty during a shower. Quite the opposite. When the outside world stops stops demanding every available resource. Internally generated thoughts become easier to notice. Memories, imaginary arguments, unfinished errands, and music can enter awareness. The earworm may have been activated earlier, but you notice it only when there is enough quiet inside your attention. Nighttime provides an especially inconvenient example. Research on music before bed found that nighttime earworms were associated with poorer sleep, and instrumental versions of familiar popular songs produced more nighttime earworms than lyrical versions in one laboratory experiment. The researchers argued that memory processes may continue reactivating musical material during sleep. Apparently, the brain has a night shift, and nobody gave it an appropriate playlist. Why does the fragment repeat instead of simply appearing once and leaving? This is where the science becomes less settled. One popular explanation says the mind treats the fragment as unfinished. Perhaps hearing only part of a song creates tension, and the brain keeps replaying it while attempting to reach completion. This sounds plausible, especially in a world where songs are constantly chopped into brief clips. It also inspired the common advice to listen to the entire song, but controlled experiments have not consistently found that interrupted or truncated songs produce more earworms. The unfinished task idea may describe some experiences, and listening to the full song does help some people, but it is not a complete explanation. Another possibility is self-cueing. Music is built from sequences in which one moment predicts the next. When a familiar phrase reaches its ending, that ending may accidentally cue the beginning again. The fragment becomes a circular path through memory. Once attention enters, each replay supplies the trigger for another replay. This is a plausible hypothesis, not a settled mechanism. Repetition inside the original music may also make the fragment easier to package as a mental chunk. Instead of reconstructing 20 separate notes, the brain retrieves one learned pattern. Rhythm keeps the order organized. Lyrics add verbal cues. Melody adds pitch relationships. Emotion adds significance. A good hook is not one memory. It is several memory systems cooperating with suspicious efficiency. Earworms may even reveal a useful side of spontaneous replay. In experiments, involuntary musical replay has been associated with better memory for music and for information that happened alongside it. The brain may be rehearsing recent material, strengthening both the sequence and its connections. That does not mean earworms evolved specifically to preserve pop choruses. Claims that they are an ancient memory adaptation remain speculative. But musical replay may be borrowing ordinary learning machinery that is generally useful. So how do you stop one? Trying to force it out can backfire because suppression requires checking whether the thought is gone. To check, you must mentally inspect the song, which politely invites it back. People commonly report better results from either accepting the earworm or replacing the mental activity. A demanding conversation, reading, a puzzle, or another piece of music may occupy the relevant attention and memory systems. Listening to the complete song works for some people, possibly by providing a sense of closure or replacing the fuzzy fragment with a fuller memory. Chewing gum has also reduced involuntary musical thoughts in laboratory experiments, perhaps because chewing interferes with the articulatory planning involved in inner singing. It is not a guaranteed cure, but it is wonderfully appropriate that one kind of chewing may discourage a worm. If an earworm is brief and merely annoying, it is ordinary spontaneous cognition. If musical thoughts become relentless, highly distressing, or seriously disruptive, especially alongside other intrusive thoughts, that is a different situation and worth discussing with a health professional. For most of us, though, the stuck song is not evidence that the brain has malfunctioned. It is evidence that the brain is extremely good at learning patterns, attaching memories to cues, and rehearsing information when attention becomes available. Perhaps too good. You did not choose the song while brushing your teeth, but somewhere between repetition, association, memory, and a few seconds of mental free space, your brain found a compact pattern it knew how to rebuild. Then the end led back to the beginning. The song is not stuck in your head. Your head keeps pressing replay.